This is an SM Media production.
Hello folks and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media Scottish Women's Football Show. I'm Scott McPike. It is always a pleasure to be your host. I'm thrilled as always to be joined by my co-host. A pleasure to welcome as always Suzanne Mulvey.
Thanks for having me again. It's been an exciting few weeks. Lots happening in the leagues.
Yep, we'll get into that. And we're joined by a championship winner. We're joined by a guy who's going to get a league winner's medal at the end of the season. Had him on the podcast last season and I think he would have bit your hand off to be in the position he's in now from that last time, but it's an absolute privilege to be joined by the manager of the SWPL 2 champions. It is a pleasure to welcome on Craig Joyce. Craig, welcome, mate. It's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much for giving up your time to join us.
Thanks for having me on. I want to chat you a bit with me, mate, when I'm getting introduced to things. By the way, what an introduction that was. That was a topper, by the way.
I've practiced. I think it was probably better. I was probably better than the first one I gave. I used to be terrible at them, but I've picked up a wee bit. Craig,
that's good, mate. Before
we get into obviously talking about the season as a whole, because I think a lot of people will look at the league table and go, that's been a massive change to what's been happening at Queen's Park. I remember talking to you last season and one thing that jumped out was you were really excited about getting into Queen's Park. You saw it as a really ambitious club and that's obviously paid off because you're going to be playing top flight football next season. As a man who's made the journey in the women's game, how good personally does it feel to be in the position you're in now?
Personally, it's great. I don't really like talking about the personal side of it too much, but I'll gaze a bit at it. Personally, it's fantastic because a couple of years back, it's no secret now, I obviously get promoted with Glasgow and it was short-lived. Football's a fast game, it changes quickly and it never worked out and it is what it is, but I think the backing that we've got has been great. I think there's been a lot of work that we've done ourselves in the background to make the club fashionable again, if you want to say that. I think Queen's Park was always the club, and Suzanne can vouch for this when she played, that you would go to and get points off it. You could take points if they weren't on their day, and we wanted to make them a bit of a brand and have a philosophy for the people that come and watch and enjoy the game, and we've done that. Last year was a bit of a slog. We were up, we were down, we were running the houses, and we worked as hard as we possibly could to retain as much of last season's squad. And I think some people might have thought, well, what are you doing that for? Because they never got a chance. Last year wasn't really a chance. That was just their bedding in period. And they've proved that this year. They've repaid us tenfold, to be honest with you. So personally, I'm absolutely buzzing. I've always wanted to work in the top league. I got a wee taste of it when I was at Glasgow City, when Eddie was there and Scott was there. And I mean, it was a taste. It wasn't a lot. It was just a taste. I was in the background and working and developing players and stuff like that, but this is a chance to go into it and really get your teeth into it, which I'm absolutely buzzing about, to be honest with you, because it's a lot of hard work. It's 4 years hard work, to be honest. It's not just the two at Queen's Park. It's 4 years that I've been trying to get there, so I am buzzing.
Absolutely. So Dan, in terms of looking at Queen's Park this season, we spoke a lot about them in the show, just in terms of the level of depth they have in certain areas. We'll touch on a few players as the show goes on, but the SWPL 2 is always a very competitive league. To be 18 points clear in it, I mean, it speaks volumes of just how well they performed this season.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've played that league, obviously got promoted from there with Motherwell, and it's a very tough league. There's no kind of teams that you go to and think we're definitely going to pick up 3 points today. You've seen it the last couple of weeks. People have been taking 3 points where they shouldn't have, or you wouldn't expect them to. So there has been teams picking up points for every team. So to win it so convincingly, obviously 18-point gap, and also as well as a striker, I'm obviously going to mention Ellie Kane, absolutely banging in the goals, fantastic. When you've got a player like that who you can rely on, and you need that, when you're in a competitive league, you need a player that you can rely on that is going to score 1 or 2 every week, and obviously that's kind of your main player. So just fantastic. As I say, I absolutely love looking at strikers, and for me, she's been doing absolutely fantastic this season, so it's good to see.
Craig, obviously we'll talk about Ellie in depth because I mean I remember doing a thing at the turn of the year and we were looking at like standout players in the SWPL when you just looked at the role and it was I think 4 Player of the Month awards in 4 straight months. I mean that you don't get that unless you do some do something worth of that, and she's been so impressive this season. But I think we obviously early, I know you'll get into talk about how well she's done as well, but I think there's a lot of players in there. Like the core of the squad has really impressed me. Like Nicole Kearney, like Monica Harty, obviously coming from Kilmarnock, Abby Callahan, Darcy Molly, Amy Robertson. Obviously, we had spoke to her last season, and she's done really well getting in at Queen's Park. And then like Megan Quigley as well. There's so many players. I'm missing a lot out as well. But the core of the squad, I think, is excellent, and it is an SWPL squad. Just looking at it, in terms of the real kind of foundation that you've kind of built in this season, what's kind of stood out to you in terms of cohesion? Because like there's a lot of goals been scored, we know that, and Ellie's contributed very, very highly to a lot of them. There's a real good group in there you can look at.
Yeah, it's no the first thing that we kind of ticked off the list, and I've spoken about this quite a lot, is early recruitment in the summer. We knew who we wanted, we knew who we were going to go after, and I think from a staff point of view, when we were all talking, I think we missed it in maybe 2 targets, which wasn't at the end of the world, because we ended up getting them in January anyway. So we just had to play the patient game with
I
that
was
one.
literally about to give us names, but you just gave it away there.
It was we were after Olivia King and we were after Hannah Cunningham, and we thought they would kind of complete the squad in terms of having 2 people for every position. That sounds a bit wild considering we're in SWPL 2, but we'd made that clear to the squad that we're working with as well, that we need it to be competitive, we need the environment competitive, and we need everybody to be pushing the same direction. We've kind of got the non-negotiables for the team are there, but we've also got a kind of a list. It's not code of conduct or anything like that. It's just a list of what we expect for them. And there's a couple of key ones on there that everybody needs to pull in the same direction. So we all sweep the sheds. It's like the All Blacks say, we all sweep the sheds. We all make sure we tidy up after each other. We all take care of each other. We all make sure the place is in the best environment that it could be, and the culture's as good as it could be. And people out with might think that's a bit corny and a bit cheesy, but see if you've got a good environment to work in and play in, the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Like the mental side of the game's massive for me. And then the next one, and I can't swear, so I'll say rule number 5, and people within the team know what it is, but it's no, and then there's a certain word that comes after it. Allowed in the changing room. We don't allow ego, we don't allow anything like that, and we've brought a lot of big players in. You're right, we've brought a lot of players that have come in for SWPL 1, and I'll tell you right now, there's no an ego between them. They don't have an ego, they don't have anything, a chip on their shoulder, and they're just a really good group of people. They're a great group of people to turn up to train with 3 nights a week. They're a great group of people to turn up with at the weekend, and include the staff in that as well, because everything needs to work together. And there's never anything that doesn't matter to us. Every detail matters. Every small detail, every big detail. Everything matters when we're doing it. So it's just that's what we've kind of pulled together. We've kind of bedded that in for pre-season for day 1. When we came back in the building, everybody was in at the same time, bar maybe 1 or 2 who we brought in a bit later. And it was just patience. It was just patience. Like we got Amy in late. Amy went to Hamilton Accies, and we got her in quite late, and we had to get her up to speed with the squad, because the squad had a couple of months ahead of Amy in terms of where we wanted to be and the way we wanted to play. And that's nothing against Hamilton Accies. We're obviously going to play a different way for them because we're in a different league. Hamilton are in the SWPL 1, and they need to defend and fight their corner, whereas we're on the front foot and want to fight our corner. And I have no doubt Hamilton would want to play like that as well, and anybody else, but that's the way we want to play football. Now, when we get promoted, we're going to need to change some of that, but we're going to be quite cute about what we do, and we're going to try and do it to the best of our ability. But there will be games where we will play the exact same way. We're not going to change our beliefs, and we're not going to change the values that we've got for the team. So we've been quite strong in them, and the girls and the staff, well, the staff had already bought into them because we didn't make many changes. The core of the squad had them. So the importance of keeping the core of the squad that you spoke about there was they were managed to get the values out to the other players who'd come in the door, the expectations, the standards, and the level that was required. So that's kind of been the cornerstone for us this year. That's what we've kind of led on, and the players lead on it as well. As we always say to them, we'll create the environment and you run it. Just make it the best one that you can possibly be. So that's probably what we've led on quite a lot.
And we obviously have to mention, Ellie's contributions this season. And I might be wrong here, but these are the stats that I've got in front of me just now. 26 starts across the season. I believe that's in all competitions, 29 goals. I mean, that's incredible numbers for any league. Never mind, to have that sort of contribution, we say 4 Player of the Month awards. She has just been so impressive. And what is it about her kind of mentality that you think? Because she's still only 24, 25. She can still go on and have a phenomenal career in the game.
Yeah, she's younger than that, mate. She's only 23.
Is she?
So she's still up, and she notched her 30th at the weekend, so she's 30 goals in all competitions, which Suzanne will be buzzing with as a striker. So I think for us with Ellie, we knew what Ellie could bring to the party, but because of the squad that we had last year, we kind of had to utilise her in areas where we thought we could use her strengths. And there was a couple of games, I tell a lie, actually, it wasn't a game, it was a training session, and we were doing one-to-one work with her. And the way she was moving and striking the ball, I can remember saying, I think it was wee Matty at the time who was out working with the twos. I say she could do a job up front. By the way, she's a striker. I don't think she'd played up top since she was a kid. I think she'd always played kind of wide. Or when she came to Queen's Park, she was a centre back, as everybody keeps telling me. And then we'd moved her into midfield, and we just never had. Last season, we were kind of always looking for that player to go and join Abby Callahan up top. Who's a top striker in their own right. And we were like, right, who do we get? And then it wasn't until the last game of the season we could actually afford to do it. And I think she scored a couple and set up a couple. And we're thinking, right, that's a plan for next year. And we spoke to her about it, and she was like, aye, I'm game, let's do it. And it's probably the best decision we've made, and one of the best decisions she's made, to go and move herself up there, because she's fantastic. The biggest thing I can compliment her on is her work ethic and her character. Your desire to work and to get better and to learn, and that hunger, unbelievable. And she's no bad at putting the ball in the back of the net as well. So
yeah, she's certainly not. And as I say, I'm just looking at the stats there. 30 goals. Yeah, that's me corrected. Suzanne, in terms of Ellie, I think it's quite fascinating what Craig said there about, obviously they tried the kind of last day of the season to turn her into a striker, and she's just kicked on massively as well. I don't imagine that happens a lot of times, but it can show you just one wee idea can just set a player to go leaps and bounds on in their career, and I can see that happening with Ellie. I think that has happened.
Yeah, for me, just listening to Craig and how he's talking, for me, one of the most important things and what I love and see in the women's game is personal development. Of course, it's a results-driven business. Craig wouldn't be sitting where he is if he wasn't getting the results, and wasn't trying to implement the results. But for me, it's the personal development, and that, like you were saying, it was a training session where you've seen something in her, and then from there, she's obviously developed so much as a player, as a person. You say her work rate's still phenomenal. So for me, that's that gets me buzzing. Even I'm absolutely not a David Queen's Park, but it gets me buzzing. A player that's just changed her position, and she'll be absolutely buzzing. How can you not be buzzing with scoring 30 goals? You know what I mean? Of course, and it's not even just that. She's probably really humble and saying, we're promoted. I've done my job. I've helped with the promotion. That's the most important thing. So for me, and just as well, touching on what you said there as well, just about the standards, and I don't know if it's from City, but that's every club that I've ever went to, I've tried to implement the wee things. Like Glasgow City, we were professional before we were professional. I wasn't even a professional at Glasgow City, but we had standards. Leanne Ross drove these standards, Joe Love, Hayley Lauder, Sue Lappin, they drove these standards, and everybody that came in had to match these standards, or they were out the door. They just weren't good enough as a player or a person. And I can see that's what you're implementing there, and it's worked. Of course, it's worked. You've absolutely ran away with such a hard league, very convincing. And for me, it's just fantastic to see that there's a plan there in terms of not only trying to get the team promoted, but to help develop the girls as well, which is really important for me to see. That's amazing.
No, I'd agree with you. I think you're probably right. It probably does come for that. And the first time meeting Eddie on the green when I was taking under 11s, and I think that's where it came from. And we had a good chat, and then for that night on, we had a chat every single night. We were with each other, which was probably 4 nights a week, which is more than I was in the house at that point. But it was you watched that, because at City it was one of the things you train next to the first team. So these young girls had something to look forward to. They had something to aspire to. So they trained next to the first team when you guys were there, and everybody you just mentioned there, and it's having conversations with yourself and other players that were there, and it was like, no, they are a level above. The way that you took care of yourself, the way you treated training, the way you turned up to training, and it was always exciting to get pulled up to it and to work up to that level. But I've always kind of seen myself as a development coach, to be honest with you. I've said that a few times. And I don't mean just taking a development team. I mean the person comes first. If you get the person right, the football player is going to take care of itself. And a lot of that's what we've managed to do with this team. We're always an ear for them. We're always a shoulder for them. But at the same time, we're trying to get the best out of them that we can possibly get. And that's happened with Ellie, but at least 22 others that are in that squad.
Yeah.
It's however big or smaller part they've played in it, they've contributed to what we've done.
Yeah, and Suzanne obviously mentioned about the competitiveness in the league, and it is a very, very tough league. But you've won 20 or 24 games, and kind of looking at the goals, way ahead in terms of the goals scored, and defensively very good as well. Have you been surprised at how well you have performed in terms of like being so clear? It's a very tough league, but you've been surprised just how not comfortable, because I know it's not been comfortable, but how well you have competed against some very, very hard teams. Like there's a lot of good sides in there, a lot of hard teams to break down. What about this kind of season has really stood out to you in terms of just how well you have been able to just go so far ahead?
I think not to sound arrogant here, I don't mean to do that, but I'm not surprised, because in pre-season, the way we worked and the way we'd set up, we expected, our expectations were to win the league. We never came out shouting about it. I think there's a couple of interviews early on where Ellie says, "Oh, we want to win the league this year, but we're going to," and the genuine, and it's so cliche, but it was one game at a time. Every time we played, it was like, right, that one's done. How did we perform? How do we get better next? And we just kept doing that throughout the season. And I think we got to the point in the season where it was us and Kelly were neck and neck quite early on in the season, and we were a good few games in, and Kilmarnock beat us, and we deserved to get beat that day. We were rotten. To quote me at the weekend, we were absolutely rotten in the first half, and we deserved it. And when you looked at it, you thought, well, we made a bit of a comeback the second half. We could maybe have snuck a draw, but see if we took the draw in that game, it'd have been so harsh in Kilmarnock, so harsh on them, because we were so bad that day. But Kilmarnock turned up. There's the difference. And if you are poor and the other team doesn't turn up, you've got a chance. If they turn up and you don't, you've not got a chance in hell. And Kelly are a good side, so I think we knew the difficulty, but the beauty of it was we knew the venues, we knew the teams, we knew the players, because myself and Ian and some of the other coaching staff have been in this league for 4 years. No, a lot has changed. There's some big players signed for some of the clubs. Like Kelly made some big signings, Livy made some big signings. Last year you had Montrose and stuff, but we knew we weren't at the level last year, whereas we knew if we could fly under the radar going into the season. A lot of people were talking about your Kilmarnocks, your Glasgow Women's and all that sort of stuff. So we were kind of like, that's fine. Genuinely, that's fine. We're humbled, that's fine. Good. Nobody's talking about us. Again, expectations were on like Gartcairn and Boroughmuir and stuff. And we've obviously went out the first game of the season and won 5-1 at Gartcairn. And I've said this in a few now, and I'm sorry, because I got on well with the guys at Gartcairn and I like them a lot. But genuinely, like when we won that day, you've got a feeling this could be something special we're pulling here. Especially some of the team weren't fully fit going into the game. Some of them were sick. One of them had COVID and was just coming back in, and we had to make a few tweaks and changes. And then as the season went on, we were like, right, one game at a time. And then we get the first 4 games out of the way. I think it was Gartcairn, St Johnstone. Jesus, I've forgotten now. I've spoken about it that much, I've actually forgot, by the way. Would you believe that?
Obviously, you started away to Gartcairn, beat St Johnstone 4-1 at home, and then 6-0 against Glasgow Women. And obviously then the 6-0 away went to Stirling Uni, and then it was the 3-1 defeat to Queen's Park, and then you were into October. And I remember saying in a podcast, Suzanne, and I know we'll kind of bring up our awful predictions later on in the season when we do our kind of end of season kind of review, but I remember kind of saying, and I think we both said this as well, there was we thought about that moment when Gartcairn, at the start of the season, Gartcairn, Queen's Park, that could be a big game, but I don't think we saw 5-1 Queen's Park, and I think that was a moment where we thought, right, there might be kind of something different here, because I think we thought Gartcairn would be able to go up. Things had obviously changed there, but obviously Craig has built something remarkable, and that was one result where straight away for the first game, I'm thinking Queen's Park are going to be quite handy here, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing when we do the season previews, there is always teams that surprise us, and it's good. It's what you want, and especially the SWPL 2. SWPL 1, we know it's going to be Rangers, Celtic, City at the top. you know, Hearts, Hibs will kind of maybe get a couple of results there. But when it's SWPL 2, it is anybody's at the start of the season. You know, we're thinking Glasgow Women have just went down, Gartcair nearly went up, Kilmarnock have started doing well, and that's the thing. And I don't even think I did mention Queen's Park at all, and that's what you said. She's just flew under the radar, and that was a good thing. You know, especially going into the early games, people didn't know what to expect from you, so you know, the element of surprise. But it's worked out for you. And it is a hard league. I've played in it, and there is some fantastic players. Just because it's SWPL 2, the amount of players that you see that are absolutely fantastic players that could be playing in SWPL 1, it's great. And obviously the fact that a lot of the players that you've mentioned tonight are going to get the chance to play up against the top players in the country is just fantastic. It's great for the women's game, and it'll be great to see their development pushing on in the top league, definitely.
Craig, I know there's 4 games left of the league season, and I know you're a man who kind of obsesses over standards, and you say you don't want the standards to slip, even though the kind of job's done. You will be thinking ahead to next season, though, and already the plans will be in place. What are you kind of thinking towards next season? Do you go and improve further? Like, I remember having this conversation with Craig last year with Montrose, and he had said as well, you do that, it comes gradually. Is that something that's creeping in, or already you thinking, right, we need to plan ahead? I think
that the planning for that started. Again, not to sound arrogant, but when you're in the lead for so long, you kind of have this it's not a comfort blanket, because we'll never drop the ball yet. Maybe we done it in the first half on Sunday there, and we came back out second half and looked more like ourselves. First half we were poor, and maybe that was the hangover of getting crowned champions the week before. But the players picked it up, and there was a few strong words in the dressing room at half time. I don't know who said them, but there was a few strong words. And we kind of realigned what we wanted to do. But again, we've kind of, I think, coming into the season and having the start, and again, we've had people in the background at the club that have been saying, just keep winning, just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll get where you want to go. And that was the plan, just keep winning. But I'm going to contradict myself. We won on Sunday, but it's how you win as well.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of your games this season, we've proved that we can win ugly. We can go to places and win ugly if we need to win ugly. But again, for a large part of them games, we'll have played the way we want to play. We'll have played to our level and what we're after. And again, that's just another thing that I kind of, as you said there, I kind of obsess over, that we need to do it our way. And again, Suzanne, that might be something that came from City, because there was a way that you played and a way that was expected of you, and that kind of get filtered through the youth teams as well. And but for us, we've kind of started the planning. It's early-ish phases. The main parts are still to come, obviously. People want to know the juicy ones, don't they? What's the budget? Where are you going to play? All this stuff, and that stuff we can't answer just now. We're still working that in the background. But the planning does come, but we're certainly not taking our eye off the ball. We've said quite a few times now we still want to go the second part of the season undefeated, or this last quarter of the season undefeated. We've picked up 2 defeats and a draw in the league, which is, listen, that's going to happen during the season. We're not going to be perfect every week. But again, it's the case of we need to start planning, we need to start looking at recruitment, we need to start looking at programmes, and we've got the sports science team and the nutritionists and strength and conditioning coaches looking at pre-season and how they're going to plan and move forward. And we obviously play in the Glasgow Cup in pre-season as well, which we did last season. So we've got that. We just need the dates kind of tidied up and shored up, and you get to play against Rangers or Celtic, and then Thistle as well. So I don't know if that format's going to change, but again, it's nice having a wee tournament at the start. With full expectations of no winning it, to be honest with you, but that doesn't faze us whatsoever. It's just games to get the legs going and test yourself against that standard. But there's always clubs up there that you look to and you go, I like what they're doing, or I don't like that, or I like this. So you always look sideways, and not to compare yourself, just to take wee ideas and make yourself better. And we're no shy in doing that. We'll take ideas for anywhere we can, whether it's down south or whether it's up here. We'll take ideas for anywhere and see if it fits to what we want to do in our model. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, then we'll find another way of doing it.
Let's get into what's been happening over the past few weeks, and obviously it's been fairly hectic. Suzanne, we'll start with you. the title, we've got a title race, and we've got a title race that was probably going to go all the way, but it's probably uncharted territory. Celtic hold the initiative now. Rangers had a big defeat last week against Hearts. Obviously responded pretty well away to Partick Thistle. Celtic obviously beat Hearts 5-0 the week before. Have to dig down deep to beat Hibs. Glasgow City, I wouldn't rule out either. It's shaping up to be quite exciting, but who holds the initiative in your opinion?
I think it's got to be Celtic. You know, the fact that they're sitting top, momentum's in their favour. I mean, Rangers, and again, City, you can never write them off. It's just it's great for the neutral to watch it. It's absolutely fantastic. I think nobody expected Hearts to beat Rangers the way they did. But I believe it is a long time coming. I feel that Hearts last season, they were very strong defensively, but never got any results. This season, I think they've leaked a few more goals than what we'd expect. But they've still played well. They've still ground out some results. But what a performance against Rangers. Absolutely fantastic. Getting the early goal and then holding on for so long. Defensively, they were absolutely fantastic. Their whole defence, and obviously Charlotte Parker-Smith and the team of the year as well. Solid at the back. So for me, I feel that I've spoke about since kind of January with Tasha Flint coming in. I think that she's just kind of been that missing piece for Celtic. At the start of the season, I felt they weren't as strong as they normally are. And I feel that she's just totally helped them and pushed them that wee extra level that they needed to go to. And with her up front, I feel that she's just a massive threat in every single game. You couldn't write her off scoring against every single team she comes up against. And for that, I feel that they are kind of in the driving seat. But some massive games coming up. You've obviously got, you know, the Scottish Cup semi-final. Yeah, then you've got them playing them the week after that, and obviously Celtic are still to play City as well. So it's just a massive game to look forward to.
Craig, I imagine you'll be keeping an eye on this as well. Who do you think who's got the edge out of the three, and who do you think will win the title?
I'm going to agree with Suzanne here. I think Celtic are firmly in the driving seat. And I'm only speaking for experience. Once you're top, you don't really look behind you. You keep looking forward. So I think Celtic have got it. I totally 100% agree with Tash Flint. I think she's incredible. Big fan of hers. Have been for years. Recommended her to a couple of clubs up here. Actually didn't recommend her to Celtic and they signed her. So just shows you I shouldn't open my mouth and recommend her to anybody. But I think she's a real. I think what you were saying about earlier as well, is you've always got that threat, and she's always a threat. But then I was saying this earlier when I was talking to somebody, that if you look across the city at Rangers as well, you've got Jane Ross, you've got Rio Hardy, you've got Kirsty Howitt, also Lizzie Arnott, Sarah Ewens. That's a bit of firepower there. And I've missed out a few. And then you look at City and you've got the likes of Lauren Davidson, who's consistent as could be. So exciting, isn't it? Genuinely, and you're right, I have been sitting watching. I don't normally watch SWPL 1, but probably the last 3 or 4 weeks I've been tuning into the games and watching them and trying to catch them. And it's pretty exciting. It's exciting all over. By the way, it's not just the top of the league; it's exciting all over, isn't it? So it's it's a good season up there. Maybe know if you're involved in it, but it's a good season to watch for the outside.
At the other end of the table, Suzanne, I want to give massive shout outs to Montrose and Spartans just with the kind of results they've been having lately. Big result in the 17th, Hamilton 5, Dundee United 2. It obviously takes Hamilton out a bottom spot, and they're sitting in 11th now. So I think a lot of credit has to go to Montrose and Spartans, but Hamilton, I think Bobby deserves a lot of credit if he manages to get the probably playoff will still be the case, but to avoid where they were, considering the kind of start of the season they had, I think they deserve a power of credit if they're going to be able to go into a playoff. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, at the start of the season, the results that they were getting, you would just have thought they were the ones that will automatically go down. But now, you know, if they can do the same as what they did last year and get that playoff spot, then, you know, there's a chance. And the fact that if you're in SWPL 1 and you're playing against the top teams, I would say that your fitness is possibly a wee bit higher than SWPL 2. You're used to playing against, you know, the top players, like obviously the players that Craig's mentioning, your Jane Rosses, Lizzie Arnott, Tash Flint. So you're just that wee bit kind of fitter and sharper. So that gives you the advantage of an SWPL 2 team coming into the playoff. But definitely he's turned it around. He's had some fantastic results for a period of time. You know, you were watching him every week and it was 2 or 3 good results. But they've slipped again a little bit. But the most important thing is to win against the teams around you, and especially your nearest rival, Dundee United. So it's a massive win for them, that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig, in terms of the SWPL 2, who do you think? Kilmarnock obviously looking the driving seat to finish second. Do you think they'll manage to keep on? Because there's like Livingston have done pretty well, obviously getting new coaching staff. It's going to be. It could actually, if I don't know Kilmarnock and Livingston, I think they've played each other the maximum times. But if Kilmarnock hold on, do you fancy them to get promoted?
If they've got a fully fit squad, they'll get a right good go. I think they're a good side. If they've got everybody moving in the same direction on the pitch and they're fully fit and they've got the bigger players ready to go, then I think they'll cope quite well with it. The exact same with Livingston. We've obviously played both of them 3 times. We've got to play them again in the next couple of games. So, but again, it's one of the ones where is it a 6-point gap, 7-point gap?
6 points. 6 points. Yeah, 6 points. Kilmarnock have a 26 goal difference as well, which I think could be quite important. That they're 26 goals ahead, so that could be big.
Massively, and I think that's what one of the big things is. Have you got? We said it earlier, didn't we? And I hate to mention her again. But when you've got an Ellie, and then if you look at the rest of your team who have contributed heavily to the goal tally as well, it's although we've said Ellie scored 30, we've scored 87 goals. So there's other people contributed to their 47. But I think with Kilmarnock, they've got some big hitters in there who can cause you problems. Jordan McClintock, Caitlin Canavan, Dion Brown, Georgia McTeer if she's not out injured. And you've also got the likes of Lauren Wayside in that, who's had a good season as well. So I think if they've got everybody fit and firing and they go into a playoff, then they're fine. The exact same with Livingston, because they can cause anybody problems on their day. But it's 2 good sides who are vying out for it behind us. And it's, again, now that you've been crowned champions, you can kind of take a wee look behind you and keep an eye on their games. And it's something I never really done. I always said that in the interviews after the games. I don't want to know the scores. And then it was the day up at St Johnstone, somebody said, "Oh, they've been beaten, we've won, we've went ahead of them." And I was like, right, only tell me when they get beaten now. I don't want to know. So it was just one of these situations where I'm not really fussed on everybody else. It's more what we do. But they 2 are some good sides, and the 2 of them have got really good managers in place. I know Mike's just left, but Paul Gregg's got a lot of experience and went in there, and Jim Chapman at Kilmarnock's also got a lot of experience. So, and the 2 of them are very good for the game. So I wish them all the best if they get to that playoff. And again, I'm not going to discredit the SWPL one side. If it's Bobby that goes into it, then I wish him all the best, because he's had a tough time and he's done a good job. And no thanks to Lauren McGregor last week helping them out in the emergency loan as well. She's went there and done fantastic for them, and she's come back in with us. So no, listen, they're all doing well, and even Dundee United, I don't want to see bad on anybody. So, but it's tight down the bottom as well, so you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comfortably in the fence. There you go. I've said that. I'm sitting comfortably in a fence.
So with 2 parts left of the show, we've obviously got a big weekend coming up in terms of the Scottish Cup semi-finals. First of all, before we get started, congratulations to Rossvale on beating Dryburgh Athletic to win the Championship and League One Cup. Rossvale obviously can win the title, I believe, this weekend if they avoid defeat in their game, so they could be a side coming up to the SWPL next week as well. But Suzanne, we've got a really fascinating weekend. We'll start, both games are at Hampden. Celtic versus Rangers on Saturday lunchtime, BBC. I'm looking forward to both semi-finals. Celtic Rangers, we'll start with. We've seen that these games can go either way. We've seen the history of this game in the past couple of years. Who do you have?
Again, you've got to mention Tash Flint. She absolutely loves a wee goal against Rangers, so she'll be a threat. But again, I was at the Rangers game at the weekend against Partick Thistle, and it was literally before the game watching the teams come on and just watching Rangers bench walk on the pitch. It was like Jane Ross, Brogan Hay, Rachel McLaughlin. You're like, what? And it's just frightening. I think that Rangers have got the best squad depth. I think the players that they've got, especially in the attacking options, I think that it's absolutely frightening, the players they've got. So if they turn up in their own form, I think that Rangers will definitely be a threat. But the past couple of games, I just felt they've looked a bit kind of stagnant. They've just looked their normal selves. Hopefully it was a wee blip and they'll turn up, because everybody, you know, involved in the game wants to see a fantastic game on Saturday, a really competitive game, with hopefully loads of goals for both sides, and just an exciting encounter.
Craig, who do you have?
Sitting on the fence. Genuinely, I spoke about it earlier, and I think with it being a one-off game, it could be anybody, to be honest with you. I think Celtic are obviously flying just now, full of confidence. But again, Rangers don't really concede a lot of goals, but they can also score a lot of goals. So it's just, again, it's what Rangers team's going to turn up. Who are you going to get? Are you going to get the one that was fluid a couple of games ago, or are you going to get the one that's quite dogged? And you just don't know what you're going to get. I agree with Suzanne. With sometimes when you see the Rangers bench at times, and the depth that they've got in their squad, it's like one of the dream 5-a-sides or 7-a-sides that you would pick, even though there's 9 subs. So I've done them.
You're looking for some loan options?
No, too expensive for me, man. Too expensive. But when you look at it, you're thinking, right, okay, they've got so many changes it can make, but it needs to click and it needs to be fluid. And again, you've got big pitch at Hampden. You've got the possibility of Hardy with a pace in behind, but you've also got the experience of Jane Ross, and you've got Tash Flint. So I'm not calling that one. I'm sitting firmly on the fence, and I will take credit for anybody that wins at the weekend. There you go. That's where I'm going.
I like to hear proper fence sitting there. Second semi-final, Suzanne, on Sunday is Spartans versus Hearts. A really good occasion as well. Obviously, Spartans and Hearts, two sides that will be desperate to get to a cup final. Who do you have in that?
I think that everybody will automatically think Hearts, just the position they're in, the fact that they had a fantastic result against Rangers. But it is a semi-final, you know, a one-off occasion. You never know what could happen. Spartans were in the semi-final against us when I played at Motherwell, and we got to the Scottish Cup final. And I think that the position they're in, the opportunity that they've got, I don't think the players that were involved that day will want to pass this opportunity again. The chance to play at a Scottish Cup final at Hampden, no less. So I think that they'll really be up for it as well. And if I was to pick somebody, I would just pick Hearts because of the position they're in. But you know, a one-off occasion, I think that Spartans will turn up, and again, I just hope it's a great game.
Craig, are you sitting on the fence in this one as well?
Nah. Too many jaggies in my bum now. I went Hearts. I said Hearts earlier just because I think they've got a lot of firepower and can cause a lot of problems. But listen, the two of them have had some good games in the league this year. Spartans on their day can cause anybody problems. But I'm going with Hearts. I've got a lot of connections in there on the staff and players that I've coached in the past as well, as a couple in Spartans as well. But I think Hearts are probably my pick for the Sunday game. I think they might just be a wee bit too strong. Yeah,
and it's going to be great. It's a great occasion for Spartans and Hearts as well, and I'm looking forward to two really good games this weekend and big occasions. Final part of the show, we got a really good response last time we were on with Suzanne's shout out, and you were shouting out a person in the women's game who has an enormous contribution. Where are you going this week? Who's the person you want to shout out this week?
Literally, just before I do this, I just want to give a few wee shout outs. First of all, to Rachel Corsie, 150 caps for Scotland, absolutely phenomenal. I think Kirsty Smith, possibly 50 caps. Sarah Ewan's getting her first cap as well. I think she got 2 now. I think she got the 2 in the double header. And also just a wee mention to Erin Cuthbert, who I played alongside at Rangers, getting to, at the second leg of the semi-final, obviously 1-up, and she scored the goal. So hopefully play for the second leg at Stamford Bridge. So just a wee shout out to them, because we've not been on for a couple of weeks. But my shout out this week is to a player who has been in the women's game a long time, been a few different clubs, like Celtic, Hibs, Rangers, and she's now at Hearts, Emma Brownlee. I think that it's a player who for me, I think she's developed a lot the past couple of seasons that she's been at Hearts. I think that she's took on a lead role, and the fact, obviously we mentioned that they had a great result against Rangers, her being part of that solid defence that night. I think that she's just a player who has become a leader for them and a vital player for them, obviously pushing for the third or fourth spot. So for me, just a great player who deserves a wee mention. Hearts are getting a lot of credit for what they're doing. Eve Oled, obviously a fantastic job, but every now and again a wee player deserves a mention. I think that she's the one for me this week.
Absolutely. Suzanne, thank you very much for that, and congratulations to Emma for receiving that recognition. Craig, I want to thank you very much for joining us as our special guest this week. And again, massive congratulations on the job you've done this season. Best of luck for the rest of the campaign. And as I say, best wishes for next season. I'm sure you are going to do great.
Thanks very much, and thanks for having us on. Been good to have a wee blather. So
always a pleasure. Thank you very much. And Suzanne, it's a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for helping me out.
Right, no problem at all. And looking really forward to these games at the weekend. There should be a couple of crackers.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be back next week with a new episode. We'll be reviewing the action in the semi-final, and we'll be looking ahead to what is going to be a fantastic month of women's football in Scotland. We'll see you all soon, folks. Thank you very much.